So obviously when we play professional games, there's a lot of thoughts about what every pick has to do for the team. So your hero might be the first one drafted, and it might serve multiple purposes. So you could have a hero that could go different lanes. It could be a hero that is hard to pick heroes into, all these things. And when you play public matchmaking, you have to think more from your own perspective, because you don't have 5 players on your team or 4 other players that you can rely on as much as you can when you play professional games. So when it comes to drafting, you have to think about smaller things. You can find some aspects in your hero that can mess up one specific hero on the other team. And then you kind of have to, from my role especially, when you're playing position 4, you have to pick your hero early. And it means in public matchmaking that you're going to have a lot of counters against you. And it means that you have to just focus on what you see when you pick your hero, if you have any information at all. For me, when I pick in matchmaking, I usually pick either after their position 5 or after 2 of their heroes, which means I usually don't pick my hero overall first, because at that point, if you pick your hero there, it's really hard to make sure you have an impact and have an idea about what you want to do in the game with your hero. So when I draft in matchmaking, I would usually pick my hero on either second pick, which means they pick first pick, and then you pick your hero on the second or third, or when it turns back to first pick, I would pick it there. So basically, if your position 5 picks first pick, and then the other team picks 2 heroes, then it's your turn to pick, which means you have 2 heroes you can respond to. So usually you would have, I would say ideally when you play position 4, you have either 1 hero to respond to, or you see 2 heroes you can respond to. And then from that, you can kind of make a game plan about what you want to do against this hero. How does this hero counteract mine? How do I make sure that I can have an impact on my lane without this guy messing me up? I think it's very patch dependent what heroes are good. I think some patches it's very important that you make sure that your hero has an impact on your lane, which is most of the time you're going to be offlane supporting. In matchmaking, it's one of the big differences between competitive and solo queue is that the lanes are a lot more static. Like it will be 2-1-2, which means you have 2 on the top, 1 mid, and 2 bot, which is going to be like the standard, and most people are going to expect it, which means your offlaner in most of these games is going to expect to have some hero on his lane that helps him. And that means that in most patches you want to have a position 4 that can help the offlaner in some way. Even if you know it's not the best thing for you to do, you might still want to do it because this guy expects you to do it. So there's a lot of mental aspect to it as well, because this guy, if you're not your offlaner, if you're not helping him, and he's drafting a hero that he expects himself to get helped, then he will get mad and his hero might not function because he didn't get help. And so there's kind of like 2 options. You either pick a hero that can do kind of everything, or you pick a hero that can't do it, and then you specifically let him know, and then you hope he can adjust to it. So that's kind of the 2 options you have. But I would say you have to, if you're not talking much to your team, you don't really know the people you're playing with, it's a good idea to have a hero that has multiple options. I think for someone who has a limited hero pool, I would say you need to have more than just like 1 or 2 heroes in general. If you only have 1 or 2 heroes, it's going to be hard for you to always have a hero that has an impact. So I would say even with a limited hero pool, you're going to have like 3 or 4 or 5 heroes. If you have that, then you make sure that there's enough variance in those heroes that you have multiple options, which means you can respond in different ways to whatever the other team opens with in their draft. So sometimes you might want to pick a hero that's a melee support that doesn't help your offlane very much, you let him know. Sometimes you want to pick a lane or a range support that's going to help him. So like having a couple of different options where you can kind of go to whatever lane makes sense is a good thing to have. I think that's the biggest thing you need to focus, especially if you have a limited hero pool, you make sure that that hero pool has as much variance as possible. If you are playing, let's say the other team picks a strong lane support, position 5 first pick, and you have to respond to that, you have a couple of options. You pick your hero that directly counters him, which is some lane supports that are position 5 are really hard to counter with a lane support. If you play against a Chen, a Lich, these heroes there's almost no position 4 that you can pick that will counteract them. You can go all the way and you can pick some Enchantress against Chen, which is like the extreme of like trying to win the lane, and it works sometimes. But if you don't have Enchantress in your pool, then it can be hard, you know. So then you have to look at your other options. So maybe you have Earth Spirit in your pool or some other melee support, and then you have an option of dodging this Chen or Lich or whatever. You play away from him. You start pulling waves. You make sure that your offlane has a way to get experience, and then that's the way you play around it. So some matchups, position 5, are really hard to win against in lane, and then you might want to dodge them. So in this specific replay, I'm playing, basically I was supposed to play position 4, but my role got taken. So in this game I had to do some adjustments, and I picked basically a position 4, which has an option to go safe lane. So in this game I have to safe lane support. And the only thing I saw in the draft in this game was Earth Spirit. And the reason why I picked Shadow Shaman position 5 is because when I play Earth Spirit, which I do quite a lot, it's one of my favorite heroes, there's a lot of position 5s that you cannot really fight against on lane. So one thing you have to do on Earth Spirit in most games is that you have to pull waves, which means you go behind the lane and you drag the second wave. And one way to stop this as a position 5 is you pick a really strong position 5 like Shadow Shaman. Shadow Shaman has high base damage, and you buy boots and you follow him. And I'll show this real quick. So this guy, who is Biver, he plays for Chaos. He's a good player, and Sai is on this lane. So these are all pro players in this game. This is Sai, this is Dahak, who plays for NIP. So he wants to pull this wave, and he's already half HP because I'm hitting him. And you can see here, it does not turn out well for him. So he has to run away and he just dies because my hero hits so hard. So there's a couple of things that you have to take in mind when you want to do this. So in the draft, obviously I saw Earth Spirit, but I didn't see the offlaner. I didn't see Mars. So when I picked this hero, I had multiple options. I could buy boots, still one, which is what I did. And I basically only had one tango because I had to get my mid tangos because I'm position 5 or safe lane support. And this only works because I'm playing against Mars on lane. I have Lifestealer, he's playing Mars, which is a good matchup for us, which means my carry doesn't need my help on lane. We don't have to play 2v1 against this guy. He can play 1v1 and be fine. He will win this lane without me as long as his Earth Spirit guy doesn't help. So I know after I see this Mars hero being picked that I can buy boots and I can just make sure that this guy can't pull waves. So that's basically what happened in this lane. This guy plays on the side against me, and we have a 1v1 on the lane. And he has basically no purpose on Earth Spirit in this game because he can't really get his level 2. Mars is having a decent lane, but as you can see in CS, my Lifestealer is free farming. I got first blood for free on this Earth Spirit, and now I have free pulls because he can't contest me here. So that's basically how this game unfolded. Later on, we got a couple of kills on them. They had a high time on just staying on the lane because me and Lifestealer can kill the Mars as well. So that was the thought process in this game. It's kind of a specific game because my role got taken, so I kind of had to play position 4 from the safe lane, which is a bit different. And it's a good option to have, but it's not always going to be something. It's not something that everyone can do. But you have to. Sometimes in matchmaking, people are going to take your role. You're going to have to make the best out of a bad situation. And this is one of the things you can do is you make sure that your hero has you have a purpose. So this game, I counterpick their position 4. Most of the time, what I'm doing when I play these matchmaking games is that I counterpick their position 5. But all in all, if you just counterpick the support you're laning against, that's going to be a good way to make sure that you have a purpose in the game.